Check, 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 check. Now you'll be able to hear me. That's interesting. Check, 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 check. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's really weird when this system does a reboot. Like, you know, I do 3 different channels. It's like you have to reset the microphone for each one. So I apologize for that. I understand now that I have been talking to myself the last few minutes. I'm not going to restart the stream or anything like that. Welcome to quote unquote live YouTube. But apologies for that. You should be able to hear me now. So if my lovely wife who is in the chat or anyone else wants to jump in and just verify that you can actually hear me, that would be fantastic. We've also been doing some things behind the scenes to upgrade some stuff. And every time we do that, unfortunately, this stupid microphone setting gets switched off. So, yeah. All right. Thanks, babe. Let's start over. Let's just start over, right? Because a few of you are just coming into the live stream anyway. Welcome to CFLW, the show, for your Friday, May the 16th. We're just gonna run it back, as they say. I am Rusty McCranie, your host that you can now actually hear, and it's nice to see you guys. Coming up, we're gonna talk about the heat. That really is the big story. And as I was miming my way through just how hot it has been as well, I will also go back and of course mention our sponsor of the channel, the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. When a storm comes through, you get hail damage, hurricane damage, wind damage. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They do offer free consultation and policy reviews. So please go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. And of course, their website is at the bottom of your screen. How you doing, Blue Goose? Oh, yes, you missed no audio whatsoever. As a matter of fact, you are absolutely on time. Get apologies for that, but we're good to go. So in this live stream, we're going to be talking about some exceptional heat. I'm talking about heat, and look, it's just been hot already. It's amazing how, you know, we were talking about months-long drought. Then we got into this tremendously wet flooding period in some areas, and then just like that, it shut off again, and the heat has only been building through the week, and it's only going to get hotter. We could potentially be breaking record highs across Central Florida starting tomorrow through at least early to mid next week. It's amazing heat. It will rival midsummer heat, but temperatures will, on average, be well above what we would even see in the peak of the heat here in midsummer in Central Florida. We've got some outrageous heat building in. So as I said, what you didn't hear is that temperatures right now are mainly in the lower 90s already. St. Augustine 90 here, Blue Goose has 93. So again, it's even hotter in a couple of spots. Daytona 91, same thing for Sanford, Orlando, Leesburg 90, Inverness, Ocala 90, Crystal River 86, Spring Hill 91 degrees right now, Tampa 88. You want a little bit cooler area, you go down to St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Bradenton, they're in at 84. Along the East Coast today, it's steamy. 90 in Edgewater, Ponce Inlet, 84 Satellite Beach. That's not bad, but the Cape is 91 right now. And again, it's somewhat of a dependent wind. Notice that the Cape has a southwest wind, so that's an inland wind direction. The heat is building inland and moving towards the coast. Satellite Beach is actually going to have a little bit of an easterly breeze, and that is how you get a 7-degree temperature difference along the Barrier Islands. It all depends on the wind direction. If you're tapping into the relatively cooler waters of either the Atlantic on the East Coast or the Gulf of Mexico on the West Coast, or you have that hot inland wind. Again, Melbourne is going to have somewhat of a westerly breeze or a south wind, something that's not easterly component, because they're also in at 90 degrees. So you do have a couple of spots that are being a little bit of a reprieve because of the onshore flow, but generally speaking, our winds are inland, and it's just outrageously hot across the area. And of course, it's getting dry. Now, the other thing about this, too, obviously, is that, look, the rain that we got did some benefits, right? Believe it or not, Orlando now, since January 1st, is actually running a tiny surplus. But the problem is, of course, we got a lot of that rain in a really short amount of time, and what we really need is more consistent showers to really help things out. But let me know in the comments section below how things are in your area. I mean, for me, the grass has definitely turned a shade of green compared to a shade of brown. You know, I was one of those areas that really got some pretty pretty good rainfall throughout that event, several inches of rain for multiple days, and it helped things out. We'll look at the drought index coming up and talk about the improvements that we've seen with the rain that we had last week. Hi, Fiona, 93 steamy degrees. Beautiful afternoon, friends. It's just going to be hot. Look, you got any outdoor plans, you have to really be prepared for the heat that is going to be midsummer here, not only today, but for the remainder of the weekend. And there's not going to be a lot of cloud coverage to cool things off. That's a live look to Lake Conway. The other thing is there's not a ton of wind outside. So, I mean, you know, the air is heavy. It is really steamy outside with dew points that are in the upper 60s and relative humidity values. Orlando had a 49% relative humidity. St. Augustine from Blue Goose, 44. That's pretty common. Mid and upper 40s for relative humidities, and a heat index that could be in the triple digits will start to come back into play for the first time this year on Sunday. You can't find a cloud in the sky from Winter Garden. It's absolutely gorgeous, but again, it is exceptionally hot outside across the area right now. And the same thing in Disney. You going to Lake Buena Vista, you going to the attractions, you have any plans to be outdoors and it's not involving putting your entire body in water, I would suggest, first of all, the sunscreen, the shade when you can, all the heat preps, drink plenty of water, avoid the midday sun if you're not tolerant to it, get the golf in the morning, in the afternoon, wouldn't do it. Later evening, sure, obviously this time of the year, sunset is later and later, but again, for mid-May, a little bit of a shock to the system about the heat that we're going to end up seeing across the area. A couple of things to point out here real quickly as I get back over to the weather computer. Again, we're dry, but this will kind of tell the story as well. This is going to be the water vapor imagery. There's a little bit of moisture coming to our north, but the Gulf right now is actually completely dry, and there's nothing that's going to help lift any moisture coming in with the sea breezes, okay? Big dome of high pressure, not going to change things anytime soon, and as a matter of fact, unfortunately, we are just going to continue to be dominated by high pressure, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. You've got actually, even where this moisture is, you've got kind of a building high up of the Carolinas. You also have one in South Florida, and just kind of this elongated area here of what's going to be very dry air that'll be situated in place, and that just lets the heat build kind of each and every day. So the heat index right now really isn't a thing. I just want to point that out, but there are a couple of spots where it's 1 or 2 degrees above. And look, I don't want to shock you guys, but we're going to be in the upper 90s for daytime highs, okay? And so even if we go a couple degrees above that with the heat index, now you're in the low triple digits. So it feels like it's 93 right now in Orlando. Same thing in Daytona Beach and Spring Hill. You get the idea. Tampa, it already feels like it's 96. Yep. I mean, again, it's, first of all, meteorological summer begins June 1st. So we're only 2 weeks away from that. We could easily be getting an earlier start. The thing that I'm obviously not happy about is just the fact that, you know, we're not going to really be seeing any rain chance. I mean, we can start to deal with the heat, but when you're dealing with the hot and the dry conditions, again, I don't know if I mentioned this when my mic was muted or not, but Orlando actually now is running a slight surplus in rainfall since January 1st. One of the only areas of Central Florida, but pretty interesting that we're now beginning to run a little bit of a slight surplus. So this is what the drought index looks like right now, okay? Again, still fighting things, still an extreme drought in a couple of areas here. You know, still at least abnormally dry everywhere. So a slight, moderate, severe drought. We're not in an extreme drought. The rain that we had did help. There's no doubt about it, right? You know, 4, 5, 6+ inches of rain in some areas. But now we need to have more consistency. Otherwise, we're going to slip back into a drought. And obviously, these temperatures are just baking everything off as well. The soil is going to get hard panned again. And the next time it rains hard, there's not going to be a lot of saturation of that soil. There's going to be a lot of runoff again. So that's why you need that steadier rain across the area. But at least at this point in time, friends, I don't expect it here anytime soon. I do want to talk about, before we get into our forecast and this heat for the weekend, what is happening a little bit farther up to the north and if this is going to play a factor in our weather. We've got two major developing storm systems. Now, if you are a subscriber to the Weather Express channel, of course, that's my U.S. forecast. I've been talking about this. You have a deep area of low pressure, which brought a lot of tornadic activity to the western Great Lakes yesterday. Look at the difference in temperatures from the upper 30s in the northern sides of North Dakota to the lower 80s in the Chicagoland area, and that low is wrapping around, and there is just a ton of juice in the atmosphere to the east and the southeast of that. We have a moderate risk of severe weather, and again, I hate the nomenclature the Storm Prediction Center uses because they have a out of 5 scale, right? With 1 being the weakest and 5 being the highest opportunity for severe weather. The 3 out of 5 they label as enhanced, but the 4 out of 5 they label as moderate. I don't understand that. Never have. So many other meteorologists agree with me. Like, how is enhanced lower than moderate? But anyway, the moderate 4 out of 5 in red, and this is going to include places like St. Louis and Paducah, Kentucky, and Louisville and Bowling Green areas towards Memphis, just north of there. Again, big time problems in this area with the opportunity for some strong long track tornadoes. Now, again, this is not going to influence us, but if you know anyone who lives in this part of the country and even around that orange ring, and the yellow ring is significant as well. It goes from Detroit all the way to Dallas and then east towards the major metropolitan areas, Philly, DC, and Washington, Philly, DC, and Baltimore, all included in that. To give you an idea, from the Storm Prediction Center, the significant tornado risk is here. And that means that with any point within this polygon, 25 miles within any point, there's at least a 10% or greater chance of an EF2 tornado or stronger. So we expect multiple strong long track tornadoes in this area on this Friday. And the severe weather risk, will stay to our north, but it will get a little bit closer to us over the weekend. Tomorrow's risk kind of expands east and south, and then there's another deep area of low pressure developing off of the Intermountain West into the Southern Plains, which will bring more severe weather there. Notice that, again, the generalized thunderstorm risk doesn't even reach I-10 here in the state. For us, it's about the heat, and it's just about how long that's going to happen. When will the daily storms come? The daily storms will come, Fiona, when we see more robust sea breezes moving onshore each day, right? At this point in time, the air is drier, there is subsidence or sinking in the atmosphere, and the sea breeze collisions just aren't that prominent right now. That will eventually change. This is kind of the average time of the year when we start to get into the quote unquote wet season and we have the daily sea breezes. Again, the storms we had last week, while they were influenced and enhanced by the sea breeze, it was because of the overall omega pattern, the omega block pattern we talked about in the country that allowed a ton of mid-level energy and moisture to drip this far south to provide us with that rain. Now, the sea breezes, again, provided more lift to the atmosphere, and those were catalysts for some of the severe weather that we had and catalysts for some of the heavier rainfall, but we needed all those other ingredients to get rain. If it was just the sea breezes like we're having right now, all bets would still be off. And unfortunately, that's the same situation that we're having at this point in time is, we don't have all the ingredients that we need to get that going, but we should continue overall to moisten up the atmosphere to get the sea breezes to be a little bit stronger as we heat up as well. But in the short term, I just don't see that in the future. But a great question. You absolutely bake without the sea breezes, Blue Goose. And again, we talked about how we don't want to get too deep into May, and we certainly don't want to be turning the page to early June and not really have the sea breezes providing at least the opportunity for some daily showers, because again, now you fall back under worse drought conditions and the wildfire threat begins to go back up. There's no advisories at this point in time. If I just bring up the advisories here, and I'm just going to double check with the Weather Service office in Melbourne, but as far as like red flag warnings or anything like that, no, there's absolutely nothing. So, the rain has at least helped out enough where initially, even though we're seeing this heat, we're not really seeing the wildfire threat come back up. Again, humidity values right now are somewhere in the mid and the upper 40s. That's sufficient enough. You know, Orlando's humidity is 49%. Daytona Beach has a 41% relative humidity. We don't want to see them in the 30s and, you know, mid and upper 30s. You also don't want to see a lot of wind, and the winds right now are very light. So, you know, not all of that is going to be into play. But let me bring up the HER model for you guys here, and we'll look at the rain, and then we'll look at the heat, and then I've got your city by city forecast as well. Again, if I haven't reiterated it enough, let me say it one more and probably a few more times. If you have outdoor plans on this weekend, my son has a championship soccer game tomorrow. It's being played late morning until the noontime hour. It's going to be extremely hot, even then. And we will be covered up, probably be bringing the umbrellas for shade. I mean, just trying to avoid the sun as much as possible, and then getting out of it as fast as we can. If you have outdoor plans in the afternoon hours tomorrow, man, again, treat it as if it's an August afternoon. So first of all, you can see from the HER model how rowdy the weather is going to be to our north. I mean, these are going to be discrete storms producing up to baseball size hail, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and that EF2 plus tornado threat. Again, you get the one kick of energy out of the Tennessee Valley and into portions of the East Coast, and then your secondary area, which redevelops in the Southern Plains tomorrow. But again, all of that has to go up and around our ridge of high pressure, and you notice that the storms that try and get into South Georgia and Alabama don't make it any farther south than that. Even places like Jacksonville and Lake City will more than likely be dry as well, with all of the activity staying up to the north. So let's take a look now at temperatures that are going to be out here. So just going to do this single frame. Let's go tomorrow morning here at about 6 a.m. No. Well, I mean, the morning lows tomorrow, there'll be a few 60s. There'll be a lot of 70s. You know, that's another indication, by the way, that we're getting into the wet season and the hot season, is that morning lows will stay above 70 degrees consistently, right? And I expect that, like in the Orlando area here, you know, the Villages, it'll be close. I think I have Ocala in the upper 60s over the weekend, but Daytona Beach above 70. You get the idea. This is another criteria for when you kind of enter, you know, the wet/hot season, is that your temperatures don't fall below 70 degrees consistently for morning lows. Blue Goose for you, St. Augustine, we've got right around 69 degrees, but there's not much more than that. Upper 60s, lower 70s over the weekend as far as morning lows. And then for afternoon highs, let's go out to 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And I haven't actually even looked at this. I mean, I came up with my own forecast, so I'm very curious to see here what we've got. So we've got some 93s, 94s, but you see some 96s out there as well. And that is what I'm more favoring. Again, this is our GFS model. I want you to notice that even along the coast, you know, there's that difference. Satellite Beach, maybe upper 80s, but Merritt Island hits 93, Sharps 94. You know, Titusville 92. Inland, you know, again, oh, it'd be great if it gets that cool in Crystal River with an east breeze, but I don't know about that. I will say this, in my opinion, relatively speaking, all of these numbers that you see could actually be slightly below what we're actually going to end up getting. And these are exceptional temperatures tomorrow. 93, 94. You see some 95s and 96s in Orlando. I do think that the I-4 interior corridor is going to be your hottest. So Sanford, Altamont Springs, Baldwin Park, Orlando, Winter Garden, you know, Lake Nona, Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Ocoee. These are the areas that can get 95, 96 tomorrow, okay? Should be, in a general sense, slightly cooler along the immediate coast, right? But not a ton. And then if they catch just a little bit of an easterly breeze here, right along the coast. But just to give you an idea, you know, there's Homosassa Springs, Crystal River 84, relatively speaking, Inverness about 90. But even then, that would be nice and lower than what I have as the forecast based on everything I've seen. But again, just wanted to show you the HER model. And of course, it doesn't go out until Sunday afternoon, right? No, not yet. And this would be for Sunday morning, where again, you're starting off above 70 degrees in most of Central Florida. By the way, just want to point out, northwest areas here, There is a slight opportunity for a little bit of fog to develop, mainly up in Marion County, maybe northern Sumter, inland Citrus, Levy County, maybe northern Lake as well. I'm looking for the visibility. Here we go. So this is Sunday morning. And even here on the HER, it doesn't really show anything. I would say patchy early morning fog, but nothing widespread up here, and everywhere else is fine. Didn't see anything else where any of the models were painting on any fog. I wanted to mention that, but I didn't even really have it in my 3-day forecast because I don't think it's going to be widespread or that large of a deal. So let me get back to the chat and see what you guys are saying about that. Yeah, it's bacon, no doubt about it. Should I just present this to you without comment? It's going to be extremely hot. That's just the easiest way to say it, obviously. Area dependent, but record highs are possible. Some areas beginning tomorrow, but the heat should just continue to climb slightly Sunday and Monday and early next week, where again, Tuesday will probably be the hottest day. And in the 3-day forecast, I don't even have that. So when I see you guys here Monday, we'll probably be talking about a Tuesday that is even going to be hotter in Orlando or areas around interior Central Florida. Is 98 and 99 degrees out of the realm of possibilities for Tuesday? It is not. Some of the things that I've seen have pushed it to that. And again, that would easily pull your heat index in the lower 90s. But get prepared, friends, for this. If you're just not heat tolerant, you don't want to be outside over the next couple of days. So 96 tomorrow and Sunday in Orlando, 97 on Monday. Morning lows building back into the mid 70s by Monday morning as well. In Sanford, it's even a degree hotter tomorrow or Sunday, 97. Same situation. Record heat possible in and around the Sanford, Seminole County area, both Sunday and Monday, and probably Tuesday as well. As a matter of fact, again, Tuesday is probably the hottest day. So 96 tomorrow, 97 on Sunday and Monday, and morning lows that will be in the lower 70s. Not only is there no threat for any rain, but there is hardly putting a cloud in the sky. I mean, we might get a few thin high cirrus clouds just kind of wisping in, but anything to really block out the blazing sun, not in the forecast. Drink plenty of water, friends. Drink plenty of water. It'll get hotter in Tampa. I mean, I guess Tampa today is already pretty steamy with the feels like temperature at 96 at 1 o'clock. But, again, even near the coast, Tampa's in at 93 tomorrow, 94 Sunday, Monday, sunny and hot, sunny and hot, sunny and hot. Probably not breaking any record highs in the Tampa area, but close. And morning lows again, that will creep back up to the mid 70s. Now, obviously, places like Bradenton, Sarasota, Clearwater, St. Pete, which are closer to the actual coast, will be a few degrees cooler, but it is still going to be quite hot. It's going to be beautiful beach weather, and you probably would expect that more in August rather than in mid-May. That would be higher than blood temp. Time to stock on the gator. Yeah, I mean, anything like that. It's unbelievable. Ocala, right? Again, an area that I actually have us into the upper 60s for morning lows, so it's slightly cooler there. But again, the heat builds. 93 tomorrow, 95 Sunday, 96 in record highs on Monday. Plenty of sunshine. And again, no threat for any rain to cool things off. Portions of Marion County near sunrise or just after over the weekend and on Monday could have areas of patchy fog. I will note that I don't think it's going to be very widespread or extremely dense. Locally dense is a possibility, but just keep that in mind if maybe you're heading out for an early morning church service on Sunday. Up in Marion County, Ocala, Bellevue, Silver Springs area, places like that, Anthony Reddick, could all run into the opportunity for at least a little bit of fog. All right, I think those are the forecasts that I had for you guys. Yeah, okay. So, again, what you see is what you get, friends. Winter Garden today, live look, nothing but sunshine. Conway, nothing but sunshine, a bit of a breeze, but not a lot out there, right? And this is it. This is what I expect us to have. It's amazing how quickly we have fallen right back into a dry pattern, but not only that, how exceptionally hot that it's going to be. Anyone have any specific questions about the forecast? I know that this isn't, one of those outrageously complex forecasts, but it is a situation that everyone needs to be aware of for the weekend plans. Just prepare for that heat. Does the actual or feels like temp more significant for the body? The feels like temp is significant for the body, Fiona, because it's what the apparent temperature is to you when you step outside. It takes into the factors the temperature, the relative humidity, the dew point, and what appreciably does it feel like to the human body. And that's what you need to be aware of. Now, again, it's not outrageously hotter than what the actual temperature is, and there's not going to be much of a difference to, there's not much of a difference, to be quite honest, of 98 degree temperature with a 101 degree feels like temperature. If it's a day where it's 93 degrees, but the humidity values are, 70% like we get because there's more moisture in the summertime. I mean, again, the air here is still dry in May, right? Relative to the moisture content in the atmosphere in Florida in August. We have the heat of August, but we don't have the moisture in the atmosphere that we do have in August. So we are not going to have a day where it's 93 for a daytime high, but the feels like temperature is 110. You're not going to have that difference. But no doubt about it, the heat index or the feels like temperature is really what you have to watch out for on days like this when you're going to be outside. And obviously, as we build into summer and we get those days where we're going to have a big spread between actual air temperature and what it really feels like outside, I'll have much more on that as well. Hey Farrah, how you doing? Thanks for joining the chat. Appreciate you. Hope you're staying as cool as you possibly can. Hope all my friends across Central Florida are staying as cool as they possibly can as well. Because again, there is not a drop of rain in the forecast over the next several days. Not expecting us to cool off anytime soon as well. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook of temperatures, okay? So again, this does not take into account today through the 5th day forecast, okay? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. This is starting on Wednesday, all right? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, into next week, mid to next week only. Even then, we're talking about all of this heat over the first 5 days, but even then, we are still having a very likely opportunity to continue to see our temperatures above average all the way through next weekend. All right. So even if we try and throw in some showers later next week, and it's not going to happen at least until Wednesday, we're still going to see temperatures above average. More than likely, we have a greater than average chance for that to happen. And not only are we in those little light yellows with a low end chance, we're in those oranges and closer to the reds with a very high end chance to continue to see that as well. So this heat is going to be building in, it's going to be sticking around, it's obviously going to be drying things back out again. We need more rain, no doubt about that. As far as the rain outlook for that same 6 to 10 day time frame, we have a neutral chance to see our average rainfall, which is still not exceptionally high, even for the 3rd week of May, but at least we're not talking about bone dry conditions outside, okay? So it's basically a coin flip if we get more rain than normal or less rain than normal. But again, it's not as if we're going to get daily rain chances. This is going to have to come in a couple of clumps, if you will. And I'll have more on that on Monday's show. But just as a quick side note, looking ahead, I don't see much right now towards the end of next week, but that's going to be our possibility. All right. Anyone have any other specific questions about the forecast? Again, please treat this weekend like it's going to be summertime. I mean, you step outside right now, temperatures are in the lower 90s, and they're going to be building into the upper 90s by the end of the weekend and into next week as well. Why will not? There we go. It's like, why will that not get to the current conditions? But again, look at that. Only a couple of coastal spots. And, again, let's all congregate and meet at Satellite Beach, right? 84 degrees because they have an east breeze. In the Atlantic, south wind, so they're at 90. The Cape, southwest wind, so they're in at 91. Inland wind direction. Sarasota, 84. Well, they've got a little bit of southwest wind. And of course, for the West Coast, a southwest wind is tapping into the relatively cooler waters of the Gulf. Tampa's in at 80 degrees. They have more of a due south wind. Zephyr Hills, southwest wind, but they're too far inland. They're in at 91 and a lot of 90s right along the area. Friends, that's going to do it for today's show. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging in there. Sorry about the audio issue at the beginning, but I know a lot of you joined even after that. As always, Lean Law Firm is our sponsor here of CFLW channel. Got my Tumblr, Got my Publix Diet Green Tea ready to go. They are your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. If a storm comes through your area, hail damage, hurricane damage, if there's been a burst pipe in your home, or if you've been in an auto accident, they cover all of that. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process, offering free consultation and policy reviews. You want to support someone who supports the channel, go to leanonmelaw.com. Friends, anything bubbling in the tropics? Great question. Fiona, right now, no. I'll have more on that on the Media Mundo channel. I know Fiona, I love that. Fiona just is like, I'm going to set it up for you, Rusty, to talk about the other channels, the Media Mundo channel, and then of course Weather Express, which is the channel for the United States. At this point in time, no. Obviously, if there was anything that I thought that could influence our weather tropically, we would talk about that. We would have a very big ranging discussion. But at this point in time, here in the tropics, we are quiet as far as actual active tropical weather here. Real quickly, guys, because Fiona asked, if I just bring this out a bit, this is going to be our view across the tropics. We're actually nice and dry through the Northwest Caribbean, the Gulf, and the Western Atlantic. There's a ton of moisture with a monsoon trough over the Eastern Pacific, but all of that energy is feeding back well to the east, flooding rains for the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. So our friends in Puerto Rico, and if you know anyone in the Virgin Islands, they are going to be extremely wet with just this disturbance, right? It's not a tropical depression, it's not a tropical storm, but it's a tropical disturbance because it's tropical in nature and there's really rich, deep tropical moisture to play with. But in the short term, 7 to 10 day time frame, that is, I see nothing that's going to be influencing here in Central Florida, but I appreciate it. All right, friends, that'll do it for the show. Thanks again for taking a quick second and liking the live stream, subscribing to CFLW if you haven't as of yet. Thanks for tuning in to the live portion of this. If you're watching this in the recorded version and you have a question, you can drop in the comment section below. Again, once I'm done live, this becomes a recorded video under the live tab of the CFLW YouTube channel. You can watch it at your leisure. As always, friends, I'll be back Monday at 1 o'clock. We'll be talking about this heat. It's going to be even hotter, and then when we could finally break it, trying to get some showers and storms back into the forecast. Until, friends, have a great weekend. Stay as cool as you possibly can. Take care, and I'll see you guys on Monday afternoon. Four, 5, 6,